Here's the man.
problem.
That's a totally different
It's
issue.
normally the man that takes things.
I missed this show. I really do.
Oh my god, please.
I don't even know how that's related to what we were talking about.
Oh, is that what you did?
Everybody shut the fuck up.
Thank you, Smath. Tomfoolery.
What up, what up?
Tomfoolery, how are you?
Doing well.
Do this, do this. All right, yeah, like I said, we'll get started around 7:05. A few people said they'll be a slight bit late. They're rushing home, so.
No problem. I gotta warm up anyways. I gotta. You guys are idiots! Are you kidding me?
I gotta take a massive shit, so I'll be right back.
I gotta think your ass your shit.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. So how this usually works is when I disappear, so like I took a break, I've not been doing the show in a month. Every time I come back, I have to do a really big show because I need to contemplate for what I've missed. So this is my contemplation. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Contemplate or compensate?
I don't care.
It's
Just quickly as well, if we're debating the topic suggested, how many incels did you actually get for this panel?
There are plenty. Don't worry. We have plenty.
Okay.
Oh,
Do you
boy.
stick your hand up as an incel?
You're severely outnumbered.
Polyamorous cunt. Are you serious?
Yeah, I can switch sides if I need to.
No, we'll yeah, we are now starting. Okay, welcome everyone to the Political Shit Show. I haven't done this in a month. I really did miss you people. I'm back doing this hopefully every Saturday. We'll still be expecting a few more people to hop in as this is. So, topic. Are incels and red pillars bad? Are they bad for society? Are people like Andrew Tate literally the Antichrist? Are incels bad for women? Are they just evil? Should we just start lining them against the wall? What the fuck's an incel? What's a red pillar? We're gonna start with opening statements. Okay, with Alex Hunter.
Incels are the single greatest threat to our society that has possibly ever existed, far and away.
All right, flow trace.
I think incels and red pillars are wrong, but they're a natural reaction to the miserable state of men's rights, both legally and culturally.
There we go.
Yeah, I think pretty similar to flow trace. There's no one addressing the actual issues that are the root cause of incels and red pillars.
Ignoring chat.
I like the island idea. No, being real, I think mental health is the incel problem. The red pill problem is a huge mental health problem. I think technology and these algorithms are playing like a huge role into getting these like mentally vulnerable people into deeper and deeper into these circles.
All right, Dr. Joe Mama.
Yeah, so I just want to like start with none of this stuff is like American centric. This is kind of like an issue that exists in actually most countries. Like sexlessness has increased in most countries, but it really hasn't increased. It's actually
non-smoker.
Yeah, I think incels don't exist. I think the whole thing is kind of like a psyop. I think that it's true to some extent that people are less inclined to have sex, at least as much as they used to. I think there's a lot of different reasons for that. I think people are less social now than they used to be. There's a lot of different reasons for that.
All right, Resevere.
I think that socialization as we currently practice it has led to a lot of forced and non-consensual relationships that we have with the societies that we're in. This rejection or, acceptance of it has led to incelers and red pillars.
Smith.
Incels are the future of feminism, and where feminism has failed, incels are now thriving. They have criticisms of women that should stand alongside criticisms of men, and they're the reasonable counterpart. They end up hating women, and that turns them kind of irrevocably, like past a point of no return.
All right, somebody online.
Yeah, so we kind of have to define these terms. We've done a little bit of talking about it. Incel really isn't like there's this specific thing that the term actually means, but you have to break that apart a little bit more. Incel is like the slur that we use to describe people that are rejected from society and that are harmful to society as a whole. All school shooters are incels by default, whether or not they've had sex. So
all right, Flamenco.
Yeah, I think that in general, incels are more of a product of a variety of new social experiences and social interactions that probably didn't exist back then. Although some of them do exist and exist in a much more hyper form now than it did before. As for like red pill people, I think they make pretty decent descriptive claims about reality as it currently exists.
Right, Sondsol.
Yeah. So I think that the red pill and incel phenomenon is a reaction to real problems, but it's an overcorrection. My basic opinion on it, but it's going
Are
to
you
be
able to
interesting to hear
turn
everyone.
yourself up?
Yeah, you're very quiet.
Very
I've
quiet.
got you at
audio.
165 and
volume.
you're still way too low.
That's a really kind
All
thing
right,
to do on a
how is
panel like
this?
this.
That's good. You're good now. That's good. All right,
Okay.
Miss Brodicus.
All right, I think this is exactly what happens when mid issues are left away too long. Is that you end up with people that are taking these issues but take it to the other extreme. But I at least have some sympathy for these people because I feel like they're actually trying.
The Alex Curse Project.
Yeah, so when it comes down to incels and red pillars, I consider incels just guys that just don't understand what rejection means and just need to understand that, you know, not everybody wants to sleep with them, and they need to understand what it means to be like desirable. They need to first
Tomfoolery.
Yeah, my name's Tom. I go by Tomfoolery Show. Mostly stream on YouTube, sometimes on Twitch. I guess I thought I was going to be anti-incel, but based on most of these takes so far, I'm probably going to end up being pro compared to most of these people. I think incels exist because of systemic issues. I believe they exist partly because of feminism and because of other like issues with incel communities adapting to society and new social norms. I think overall, like, feminism had its extremists early on. Red Pill does as well. And I think that incels just need to learn to adapt to society, and society needs to learn to actually address the issues that are currently happening with young men having trouble finding partners.
All right, lime mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I think that red pill is just looking at the world the way it is and just making like a description and like I guess a criticism of it.
All right, Stardust.
Hey, what's up? I feel a little bit bad for the incels, you know? I feel a little sympathy for them. I feel like, you know, the dating market is changing, the way that we date is changing, and it's confusing and it's changing so rapidly, we can't keep up with it. What are the rules? We don't know what the rules are. We need
All right, this is Political Shit Show. Go to war. Floor's open.
I just want to say that, like, with all like, obviously, I want to put incels on an island. I think that's the right thing to do. But incels have given us incel punk rock, which currently is possibly the best genre of music being produced. It's the most unique. It's the most interesting. People like Negative XP are brilliant, and also they never copyright strike anything, so I can use it on the stream, and it's fantastic. So I think they're like, I just want to throw that out there to the people supporting incels. There are like good sides to this movement, and you know, music is important to us.
Well, I mean, versus the World ruined an entire generation of women is always a really good song. I have to say,
MK Ultra Victim is so good as well.
Yeah. I'll start off by saying I do think that like a lot of the social issues do start with feminism. I think that like a lot of things shifted a little bit too far over to one side. I think that like women moving up in status while still expecting men to have higher status than them is a big part of it. They haven't changed their expectations of men while what we expect of women has gone up. And so I think that that leaves a lot of men at the bottom. And then obviously there's issues with like social media where men already, boys from an early age have issues socializing. Women learn to socialize much earlier than men do, but then men learn to play video games earlier and get on computers earlier and on the internet earlier, and they make friends in very antisocial ways to where they're not learning how to communicate like the rest of us are. And I do think that like there ends up being a lot of systemic issues that grow over time based on social norms that we're currently building and not adjusting to.
I don't think it's necessarily that we're building. I don't think it's necessarily that we're building these social norms. I think that going ahead and looking at classically, you know, women, where it would be just going ahead and having all the girls around, cooking dinner, you know, building that whole thing up. You know, I'm only 33. I still remember that shit happening around holidays. And then the guys, we would just watch football and dick off and shit. You know, eventually they realized, hey, we didn't have any children, so we're going to teach you how to do it, Resi. And like, so now I have a love for baking and cooking and doing all that stuff, having like that social, you know, part of it. This is just the way that it's always been. Men have never don't have this original social shit unless we're going to war. And I think that without like, massive wars breaking out all the time, men aren't building that camaraderie with other men, and that ultimately is reducing any way for them to socialize and make these groups with like some sort of societal function.
So what you're saying is we need
You're
World War
saying we
III.
need more.
The thing is, like, a lot of these guys,
All men do want to fight and die in a
red
war.
pillars and incels are saying that men shouldn't be cooking because men should not be cooking because cooking is like a feminine thing, which is completely absurd. Cooking is not necessarily a feminine thing. Like, being like self-reliant upon a man is very, very important. You're not.
But here's the thing, though. Like, barbecue has always been a masculine thing. Doing a barbecue is a highly masculine thing.
Well,
that
what
is
about
cooking
baking a
and
cake?
that is socialization. And we don't even fucking have barbecue anymore, dude.
Yeah, well, you can have barbecue. Who says you can't have fucking barbecue?
Who doesn't
Nobody
have
says you can't have
barbecue?
barbecue.
I want to respond really quickly to something the guy underneath me said. I haven't remember what is your name? Tomfoolery. I don't think that feminism has gone too far. I think that the feminist criticisms of men are fine. It's just they're ignoring any criticisms of women. So like we're saying you shouldn't do this, men. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this. But we're not like also applying criticisms back to women. So it's like women are maintaining all these like 1950s social like they're allowed to be like sexual objects and like promote themselves in that way where men don't really have that kind of power. And it's like, well, they're getting their cake and eating it too, I think.
I wouldn't say feminism's gone too far, but I would say that like we've gotten used to worrying about women's issues and not men's issues, and that right now it's hard for us to imagine that men would have issues with women, right? Like my issue isn't that feminism has gone too far, it's that we have adjusted our expectations of women, yet women have not adjusted their expectations of men, and I think that this changes the dating market.
Do you think that there's an overcorrection problem there, Tom?
Yeah,
the problem is though is that
not
other
an
men,
overcorrection problem. It's more about expectations. From
the problem is though is that it's other men putting other men down. Like if like a man says I have a problem, other men call him a fucking.
Hold on now.
Problem.
That's
a different
problem. It's not just men.
Predominantly is the
I've got a
men.
problem.
That's a totally different issue.
Normally the man that made these things.
I missed this show. I really do.
Oh my God! Please.
I don't even know how that's related to what we were talking about.
Is that what you mean?
Everybody shut the fuck
No,
up.
Alex,
I don't,
you cannot
as I
deny
help
that
them with
women
my
might have
penis.
I'm gonna let this just happen.
Contribute
This
to
is
the
funny.
problem.
I can't hear anything because everyone's talking to fucking once.
You're talking over the last person talking, Alex. That's stupid.
Can we let the incels talk for a minute, please?
Yeah,
Over him.
blame fucking me, right? Blame me, right?
Guys, listen to me. Reservoir was onto something. We need to send the incels to war. We need to make a platoon of incels.
God damn it.
No, it's all of them.
They're bonding.
Okay.
The worst platoon
No,
ever.
actually, no.
Men
Even beyond
and
that,
women
right? There's
contribute to the
so I
problem.
was
I think we
looking
can
at
acknowledge
Sorry, what were you saying, Floatress?
I was going to say, I think it's true that men and women both contribute to the problem. It seems pretty dumb to focus on one over the other. I think the biggest, I think that Tomfoolery was sort of onto something when he talks about the fact that I don't think that feminism is necessarily a problem, but the problem is we don't seem to have a real bed of advocacy for a lot of the unique problems that men face. And if you want to talk about why that is, I don't know, that's a really complicated question. It seems like most of these movements are usually driven by the group that is primarily affected. Like the civil rights movement was primarily driven by black people. Feminism was primarily driven by women. And man, it seems like as men, we have a really big problem like focusing on this kind of shit as opposed to other things, for better or for worse. So on the one hand, you know, men seem to do really well in very highly competitive environments like work and sports and stuff like that. But my God, I don't know, maybe this is just my personal life, but speaking as a adolescent male who's been in a lot of adolescent male friend groups, oh my God, if I could tell you the amount of times we've autistically debated over the correct optimization in a video game versus like talked about how we felt, my Lord, like the balance is completely out of whack. So it feels like there's a real problem of men who are always going to need to be the primary drivers of talking about men's issues have a real problem of actually being able to do that.
No.
Because they're ostracized.
So Flow Trace. Give me 1 second.
they're just
I'm gonna address why. Give me 1 second. So when we talk about this, you're saying that it's mainly men. Men don't talk to men about how they feel. And it shouldn't be mainly driven by women. This is a societal issue, and it's been pushed among society. This isn't a men issue. This isn't a women issue. Men's rights is a societal issue. It's a men's and a women's issue. Because what happens if you show your emotions to a woman and you're dating. Guess what? You're too
I
nice.
agree.
You're too emotional. I don't want to date someone like you because my God, you can't even handle your emotions.
I
so
agree
like
100%.
it's all
Women are
across the
involved,
fucking
then
board.
it's a
But
societal
that's
issue.
how
No,
you
no,
get incels. That's how you get
but
incels.
this
Women
is
hate
no.
too
No,
fucking
my
No,
emotional.
wait.
Get incels for
So,
people
like,
that give up on
nailed
something quickly.
Sprout.
That's the problem.
Men and
Here's
women
the thing.
contribute to
Sprout
this
nailed something
problem,
here,
but
though,
men
right?
are always going to be
Because
the primary drivers, right? Like, absolutely, civil rights didn't involve just black people. But if black people had been the primary drivers, black people are always going to be more interested in civil rights with black people than non-black people. In the same way that men are always going to be more interested in the problems facing men than other people. That's not to say other people don't contribute to it. That's not to say that we don't need women to step up as well. But it is to say that there's a really big, it's no surprise that the group that has a real big problem talking about these kinds of issues seems to be lagging behind and advancing their advocacy related to those issues.
Can I talk about? I want to ask.
No. When they actually try to advocate.
Flow trace.
Wait.
Like, hold on. If we live in a patriarchal system largely written and governed by men, and like our systems are designed around getting men into like top positions and all the other claims that have been made for multiple years, and then like the idea that men aren't advocating for their own interests seems a little fucking odd. Could it be that like actually a lot of men don't seem to actually care about these things? No, but like, seriously, why is it then? Why is it we're having to have some conversations now?
So the reason, okay, stop.
Real quick. Slow the fuck down.
I would say that implies that there's no like negative social ramifications for a man to advocate on his own behalf based on being a man. That's kind of
hurts men. Like,
largely, it's kind of largely frowned upon in current society with whenever a certain group that is perceived to be in like a dominant position to advocate for its own interests as opposed to a group that's in a less dominant position to advocate for their own self-interest based on that identity group.
Men who advocate for themselves are called incels.
Yeah, it's
You also have an issue where there are men who advocate.
They're still,
I need to bring some clarity to this real quick.
They're
treat men
referred
and
to as
women.
men's rights activists, and it's still pejorative.
Which, by the way, I want to go back to what Beckett said about men advocating.
Can we go back to what Rez was saying? Because Rez has been.
Hey, can we go back to what Alexa was saying?
Can we go back?
I want to talk about social contagion.
Right? Here's a legitimate question. Do you guys actually think that women look down at men who advocate for themselves or who show some sort of strong?
I think society.
Men and women do it equally.
It's not about women.
Look at how bisexual men are treated. Yeah, absolutely.
Sondsol, this is your fault. You asked everybody.
And like more like I guess lefty groups, is men's rights activists not used as a pejorative term to insult somebody?
Hold on,
It's emasculating.
Women, that's not what I asked you. I asked. Jesus, the question I asked was, do women look down upon men who advocate for themselves?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Depends on
no fucking shot. If you guys have ever talked to like a woman who's been married for like 10, 20, 30, 40 years, like some older woman who's been in the same marriage the entire time, like what do they say about their husbands? They love them because they're strong, but they can still be able to express themselves to their wives.
Sure.
Oh, so you're not talking to the women that get beaten then?
Hold on.
You're hitting a very small
They can protect the family. They can protect the family.
You're selecting for women that have healthy relationships. We're talking about.
Oh, is that what you think?
Point out, Jesus.
Please. You're talking to women you don't know at this point. And women that you don't know are going to be far more likely to turn you down when they see you're too emotional than women that you've already dated for several years, that you've already grown that trust and relationship with, that they expect to be the person you turn to when you are emotional. At that point, they expect it. But when you're dating, that's not necessarily what they expect.
Okay, can I respond to that? Okay, so the idea that, like, number one, I think that somebody, despite his fucking crazy interruption a second ago, I think he's right. Yeah, like, if you're going to be sitting there sobbing on the first date, yeah, the girl's probably not going to want to be with you to go to the second fucking date. But if you're talking about, like, if you're going on dates and you, like, can have a good time the first couple of dates, right? You start to get to know the fucking person and then you can, like, open up to them a little bit. Like, yeah, that is what people are looking for in their partner, someone that they can connect with on a deeper level. That it's not like women are like, oh, well, this guy like showed some emotion that wasn't instant rage or like wanting to murder someone or like other than that, like stoicism. Like women aren't looking for those qualities in men. Go ahead.
I would
sorry,
like to butt in here. Yeah. So I think that there's a very good point here being made, and that I think a lot of incels and a lot of these people who subscribe to these ideas may be a result or a symptom. I don't know, but it shows that there is an increase in body dysmorphia for men. Right? There is an increase in body dysmorphia for men, and it's
Ever since Dragon Ball Z.
It's increasing
Based. What a shit show.
To percentages that are now problematic, that are now causing trouble for a significant population of men, and I think I could see this actually as very much as a public health problem that we could address.
Well, here's hold on, wait. Can I please step in? Can I wait, stop.
Let's go with Joe. Why don't we listen to Joe? He hasn't talked yet. Joe hasn't talked yet. Joe, we're not supposed
Moderator, rein him in.
So I'm gonna butt and I'm gonna talk. Yeah.
Let's go, Joe.
When I've been listening to this entire conversation, and it's extremely fucking stupid because everyone's talking about their feelings on everything, and no one has done any research on any of this shit. Do we think that the rise in sexlessness is unique to men?
No, it's not.
It's not. They run parallel to each other. Okay, good. Because we're talking about
I wouldn't say parallel. I would say that women generally would still have an easier time finding a.
It's loneliness versus sex.
Studies have come out to show that women are having less sex at the same rates that men are. Yeah, it's only a few years behind.
We're talking about shorter amounts of time. Men are more lonely over longer amounts of time.
No, it's from the same study. It's from the same study.
Everybody shut the fuck up for a second, all right? So they run parallel. Women have more sex than men on average, right? But they run parallel to each other. It's because the issue of sexlessness is independent from a lot of the shit. The shit that we're talking about is stupid subjective individualism when the issues are economic. It's ridiculous. There's so much empirical data that shows when we have a rise of sexlessness, it's due to a recession. It's due to property inflation, and it's due to knowledge economics. That's the primary drivers of sexlessness. And the incel community is extremely small. And so we're talking about like this rise of sexlessness, and it's almost like implied as like a male specific thing. You guys haven't said that, right? But that's kind of the implication. And it's we're not addressing any of the actual issues at hand. It's just like fucking.
We're not just talking about sexlessness. We're talking about holy fucking
I have been advocating for femcells for a very long time. Okay, femcells exist.
So basically, what Joe said literally echoes exactly what Tomfoolery said, right? Where it's like, again, yeah, women are in better economic advantageously conditions. They're trying to still do the way that it used to be, which is date up, right?
That's the same. No, that's not what I said.
Okay, what did you explain it again?
That's why complete misinterpretation.
Yeah, all right.
The primary
driving factor
economic
issue is causal.
The primary factor in the rise of sexlessness is people living at their parents' house and going to college. Those are the primary driving factors of sexlessness.
Hold on, wait. Why are people living at their
I'm sorry, can you repeat
So-
it? Say it one more time.
That's true.
Why
That's
are people
true.
living at their
It
parents'
is true.
Holy
Wait,
shit.
say it again, please.
It's true. It
Repeat
is economic crunch. It is economic crunch, but the thing behind that, there still is this unhealthy dynamic between men and women that economic crunch pulls out.
Yeah,
that's what it's showing us, something that's underneath there all the time.
These issues, so like I said before, the stagnation of like the rise in sexual partners, it was roughly been the same since 1994. Right? We've been doing research on involuntary celibacy since the 1940s.
Hold on. You're looking at the wrong thing, though. You keep talking about sexlessness, where we're not just talking about sexlessness. We're talking about loneliness.
What is
incels being radicalized by social media pipelines?
What is an incel?
It's somebody who, but it's not just.
What is the root word of an incel?
You're talking about a symptom of loneliness, whereas loneliness is a causal issue of them being sexless.
Okay. Can you explain to me?
This is over and over, like the same thing with the economic issue. You're talking about a cause of another issue instead of talking about the issue.
For what 2 words?
Say that again.
it's a portmanteau for what two words? The word incel.
You can
Involuntarily
reduce it to that, and it'd be really obnoxious if you did. But
Yes,
You're
it's-
just ignoring what the actual
he's
issue
just
is.
like your statement about economics. You're talking about correlation equals causation with the
No, I'm
economics.
not gonna
Where we're
talk-
talking about there's
hold on.
another level
Hold on.
deeper than that.
There's
That's actually
economics.
causal of
Wait,
the
you guys
economic
are
issue.
fucking glossing over this shit.
Wait a minute. Can we go back to we know that a lot of red pillars and a lot of incels are massively obsessed with their bone structure, with their facial shape, with things like this. It is a very clear indicator that all of these men have some sort of body dysmorphia, and we need to actually tackle this from a health perspective.
I think that's
Okay, so when it comes down to the incel communities, a lot of them have the main problem that like a lot of these guys have dealt with is they have this like fear of rejection, and once they get rejected, they feel like the whole world is coming down upon them, and then they listen to somebody's like, you know what, this guy, I identify with him. Essentially, he's talking about how I need to improve my body and I need to be a better person, stuff like that. But then they kind of take it a little too far. They feel like the only way for you to get women is to be this alpha male. You need to treat women a certain way so that way where they respect you. The best way in order, like, when it comes down to it, the best thing that you can definitely say is to not pretend to be somebody that you're not. That's the number one thing. This is coming from somebody that had dry spells for many years, plenty. I can tell you this much. Okay. The best thing that a man can do is just be himself. Because if
I'm gonna stop you there.
You're not gonna you're not gonna stop me there, okay? Because I'm gonna fucking listen. You guys can stop me all you fucking want to, but I'm telling you that the best thing that a man could do is just be him fucking self, love himself for who he is, and not pretend to be somebody he fucking isn't. Simple as that.
Before we get off of the data point and we never come back, I'd just like to ask Joe.
Shut up! I want to hear non-smoker.
Thank you. Jesus Christ. Look, real quick, okay, because I know a lot of people want to talk. I'm going to argue that there's actually no way that anybody could come up with a perfect dating market where everyone is going to get laid. There's going to be a percentage of people who aren't going to be able to get laid or laid with regularity, and that's just how it is. And the fact that we're trying to overanalyze this to the point of we have to come up with some sort of public health solution to resolve that. I get being compassionate, but I also think that this is a little silly, right? Since time immemorial, men have tried to figure out how to get women who are not attracted to them to sleep with them. Some guys succeed, some guys don't. That's just life, And if you can't get laid, you got to look at yourself and try to really understand why that is. And it might have something to do with looks, but usually it has a lot more to do with you as a person, and the shit that you do with your life. And if you're that unattractive to people that no one will fuck you at all, ever, then that probably says a lot about, the way your life is going, and you should probably make some practical changes. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
just be yourself.
Okay,
but just be yourself. Thanks, guys.
This doesn't seem to have anything to do
why not
with,
just do better?
So non-smoker
around incels.
Let me make
have
one
a large.
Someone has a question for me.
Nothing.
I have a question for non-smoker, real quick.
No, hold on. Can we hear something?
No, go ahead.
Because he's been quiet all the time. He wanted to say something. Let him speak.
Okay. I feel like you guys are all ignoring what the actual issue is. The issue is not sex, all right? The issue isn't the fact that incels exist. The issue is the ones that are idealized to fucking hate women, all right? The ones that are going to actually commit damage to society and danger to women. People not having sex doesn't fucking matter. People always have and always will not be able to get sex. The issue is when you have people who are spouting things that is domestic violence and things like that. That's where the actual issue comes up. Not the fact that...
This is actually obnoxious. I'm not going to lie. This is actually brain dead. This freaking crap is so obnoxious, dude. No, they're not the most rational person on the panel. We keep talking about what the actual issues are here that are causing all of these things, and they just keep wanting to talk about what the causes are. Well, but they hate women and blah, blah, blah. No. That's a cause of the issues. There are actual issues that we can talk about here, but instead they just want to keep going back to but they don't have sex. Yes, that's a symptom of the problems. Stop talking to me about the symptoms. I don't want to hear about the symptoms. I want to talk about the actual issues.
that's the issue, and the issue behind that, right, is the idea that men's rights is a huge issue behind that, because they feel that something is wrong. And something is wrong. We can take a look at society. We can take a look at suicide rates. We can take a look at incarceration rates. We can take a look at men not getting their child. We can take a look at many different things. But something is wrong. And so they're asking these questions. And when they're left in this echo chamber, the answers continue to get worse and worse and worse. So if we don't talk about this as a society, what you're suggesting is the problem is only going to get worse, not because it's a problem, but because it's a symptom of the problem. And sure, we can put a Band-Aid on it, but it's not going to fix the issue. Eventually, the water's going to leak, and you're going to have a much bigger issue when the Band-Aid comes off.
He was talking to me. He was talking to me. I already said that we need to have men's rights be an actual thing that's talked about within the United States. But the lack of sex is what I'm pointing out. That doesn't fucking matter. It comes down to men's rights issues. It comes down to mental health issues, not the fucking lack of sex. Okay,
I agree with
these
you
people would probably go down this pipeline for any small reason other than
and I'll
fucking
say,
not.
So also made a point earlier.
People who are radicalizing going down these rabbit holes.
If we're circling back to the question of sexlessness, Joe had a bunch of data on that, and I just have a genuine question for Joe. This isn't a gotcha, but just seeking to clarify. If it's the case that we see certain economic conditions being the most consistent predictor or cause of these sexless conditions, do we see a similar spike or a comparable spike in the kind of sexlessness that we're describing now, say in previous economic crises like stagflation or anything like that?
And in other countries as well.
When you say
you right down to the hem length of dresses, you can predict economic factors from how long dresses are and things. There's loads of things through the the Great Depression period, and also generally through the fall of different empires and economic factors. You can look at Puritanism in British history is actually in a reference to the economic conditions around those particular periods. So yes, sex and economy track all through human history.
And even today, this same thing doesn't even just show up in the Western world, but also in the East as well. And it's all independently centered around economic conditions. The thing is, though, I wasn't saying oh, that's the only thing we should focus on. That's the root for the issue. Because with any other political issue, any sort of issue, first of all, the root of this issue is sexlessness, by the way. It's a lack of relationship. So I mean, that's just the fact. But then the other thing, too, is the other issues are implied because of that. Because when you have a political or individual issue that is that you can center a large community around, they tend to scapegoat and victimize another group for their issues. And that's just something that's consistent through all of politics.
I want to push back on you a little bit, because when we're talking about sexlessness, we need to be really fucking clear here, because this is part of, again, the problem with the incel community. It's talked about as sex. There is this human meat conception of women. But if it was just sex, and again, you can look at the data of the increase in the sex industry for an example of this, and that it's not actually helping. It's not just sex. It's that men, while we have an interaction socially or biologically or whatever with sex, and the way we approach it is different to women, it's not just that. We need that closeness. There's something we can't get from prostitution.
If it was simply sex, listen, this is very short. If it was just sex, right? If it was just a feeling of getting off, then they would be totally fine with just a fucking fleshlight or one of those fucking $5,000
is so vital.
Companionship is vital. But that's not the problem.
The
it's
only
not just
reason
the sex; it's the fact that they also want the closeness.
The reason
hold on now.
The reason I'm using the term sexlessness is because it goes beyond involuntary virginity. Involuntary virginity is tracked with sexlessness. The only reason I use sexlessness is just because it's the most vague thing I can use to track vague data, and it's not specifically about just fucking one person. So or getting.
I'm just trying to clarify down, because I know how other people might read that.
We can talk
trying to get that clarity.
We can talk about involuntary virginity. And it's gonna have the same rate and the same root cause.
There's a
let's hear
crucial
from Al.
element I think that we're missing here, and that's that men growing up are socialized to believe that if they're not having sex, that they're failures, right? So like that's a big part of it. So when you're taught all growing up, like you got to have sex, you got to have a family, you got to have kids, you got to do this and that, you got to have a woman who loves you and you love her back. Those are all great things to have. Don't get me wrong, but when you're taught that like if you don't do that, you're a failure. That on top of the economic conditions, on top of the social interaction that we're losing slowly because of the economic conditions, the internet, whatever else, these all compound into one gigantic problem salad, if you will, that, these all play off, all of these elements play off of each other. So I think looking at any one individually
for, right?
is not going to help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's acceptance that people are looking for. It's not necessarily, oh, I just gotta fuck. Or it's not just like, oh, I gotta find a girlfriend. It is the fact that because I don't have a girlfriend, because I can't find someone to fuck, because I can't do these like things that everybody else seems to either be able to do or is expected to do, I am somehow inadequate as a person, right? I'm not fitting into the social order in the way that I'm supposed to. So what they're actually looking for at the end of the day is some sort of recognition that they fit in. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
companionship is so vital, honestly.
The problem we're having in this conversation is no matter what we say, we keep criticizing men, and we're not talking about so we're living in a society that's creating these conditions that men are falling into these traps. So we're just going to keep criticizing men. I think the hyper criticism of men is a big contributing factor to the reason that men are falling into these traps.
Yeah, so I think that women do criticize men for having their desires. I think, like, from my perspective, what the red pill means is that men's desires aren't treated equally and they're looked down on. So a woman who says, I want an older guy who makes more money than me and is perfectly acceptable. But when a man says, I want a younger woman who I can provide for, oh, you just want that so you can control her. You just want to be a misogynistic, patriarchal asshole. But how can you advocate for that relationship dynamic for the woman unless there's a man who also wants that thing, reciprocity? I see this also with the stigma between men expecting sex from women. With women, I've heard women of all ages, all races say, hey, if I have sex with a guy, I expect that he should at least pay for me to get my nails done or at least pay a bill for me or something like that. But when the man says, oh, I've paid for this woman to get her nails done, I've paid bills for her, I expect sex. Oh, now you're a misogynistic race or rapist type guy who just wants to abuse women and take away their body autonomy. It's this dynamic between only seeing things from a woman's perspective, and for me, the red pill is just looking at this from both ways and taking like an objective like description of this reality.
You're combining the views of radically different groups.
Any expectations that men have of women whatsoever, if you want to select for women that are older and have more money and that are going to pay for your meals during dates, that's also going to be seen as misogynistic. So even if you want the younger woman who's like doesn't know what the fuck she's doing in life, or you want the older established woman, which is the dream that women want, they want to have that for men. No matter what you expect from women, you can't have any expectations of women. But women have tons of expectations of men.
Well, on first dates, most women have expectations of men. I'm just like trying to speak from like what I've in regards to this, but like when people on a first date, the first thing you're doing is you're figuring each other out. Like, what can I see that myself with this person? And if it goes on the second date, that means that things have gone better, essentially. Now, that doesn't mean the relationship is necessarily going to work out, but this whole concept of like, oh, well, it's not going to work out, so therefore I'm going to stop dating and I'm just going to, start, everything is everybody else's fault, but it's not my problem. A lot of it has to do with like, what issues do I bring to the table? Is it my fault kind of deal? What can I do to improve myself? Essentially, that's a lot of it has to do with like, knowledge of yourself before you can move on to be able to, because relationships is a two-way street. You can't just say, oh, well, if I'm in a relationship, I'm the alpha, therefore I'm in charge of everything. Like that's what we have these really weird ideas of how relationships are. And people seem to think they have these weird, ridiculous expectations when relationships are really very much a two-way street. And some people they can't comprehend that. And that's the thing that most people don't really understand. That's something that we kind of need to work on, really. I mean,
some expectations are good, some expectations are bad, but men and women both put bad expectations on men.
Sure, absolutely. But it's how you work through those expectations. It's how you work through those
expectations.
expectations.
No,
It's how you work through those
like,
expectations.
Stop.
Again, two-way street.
There are absolutely expectations that women put on men or each other that they are demonized for. There are some that they aren't. The reality is we live in a very diverse society with a lot of different social groups that have very different views about dating, about the role of men and women. So you can't combine all of these sort of truisms into one person and then surprise when they're not.
That's what relationships are. They're two-way streets. You just can't like expect everything to be one thing, and that's it.
This
You're
can be
describing like a
fixed
good,
with
perfect
one word,
relationship, which
and
in
that's
large
called
part doesn't.
communication. If you communicate with your with whoever you're dating, even if you're on like the first, second, third date, whatever. Like for instance, this Twitter video just came out recently of this guy who was recording this woman that he like imported from like across the country or whatever for like $3,000, and he's recording her because she wouldn't put out for him, right? So there was a social expectation in his mind, and you know, it was a pretty fair expectation given what the society teaches us, that since he was paying all that money that she would put out, right? And he was pissed off. Now, to be fair, it is completely within her right to say no. She's allowed to do that, and we should not be expecting her to put out just because he paid a bunch of money. What I will say is that what we need to work on is communication. If you are paying $3,000 for somebody to come and stay in a hotel for you, be clear. Say, hey, do you find me sexually attractive? Are we going to have sex? Whatever. She would rather you ask than not ask. And if she gets pissed off or weirded out that you would ask, that's a red flag. Dump her.
You really think that someone communicated for 6 months?
That's
no. See, but this is what I was talking about. It's prostitution where the man expects sex, but it's not prostitution when it's the other way around. Like
I don't think so. I think the whole idea of the sugar, the sugar mommy, that's still prostitution. Like
no,
I'm saying,
bro, if you're paying someone $3,000 and hoping to get laid, it's prostitution.
Well, yeah, I know that, but a woman doing that is also prostitution.
No, hold on. You guys are missing his point. He's saying that if a woman expects to put out, if a man spends a lot of money, that's like technically socially acceptable.
No, what I'm saying is the women hold the expectation that if I'm having sex with a guy, he should be willing to spend money on me.
You can make
right. Women have the expectation that if I'm going to be around a guy, that he should be paying for things.
You could make the argument that
have
that's
you read a one-night stand, bro?
Yeah, like I'm sorry, like
so
no,
that's usually where it ends. You know what I mean?
I don't think I've ever paid for a woman's hair or nails and shit. Yeah, I've paid for like meals and stuff, but like that's just. I mean, I've done that for like just male friends that I've had that I've hung out with too, where it's like, hey,
there's a good
you
website
go
you can use if you want to order women's hair and nails. It's pretty efficient. The delivery time is pretty good.
Is it like on the deep web, and do I get the scalp with all the bloody bits too?
It's actually, you know, because of the liberal media, it's now just on Etsy.
Okay.
You can just get it. It's pretty legitimate.
Thanks, Spider.
Wait, so are y'all really saying that a woman who's having sex with a guy doesn't expect him to spend money on her?
Sometimes,
yeah,
I mean, always.
I think
a
woman in a
relationship.
If that's not the kind of,
it's not.
That's not the kind of woman that you're looking for. Then don't date the woman. That's
no. That's not the point. Hold on. You guys are missing the point still. He's talking about the social acceptance of one over the other. He's saying that there is a social acceptance of one and not the other. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, it's almost like men and women want different things out of a relationship.
No, they're the exact same thing. This is what y'all are getting. But
they are the same.
You want to call the man? He's treating her like a prostitute. Like that's what you characterize a man.
Yeah.
I've invested this much.
All I said was be clear about expectations.
If you buy somebody a gift, is that automatically prostitution?
I don't really care what you call it. If you call it
I don't think we have enough people on this panel. I think we need more.
Yeah, we need
I agree. Who wants to
send some DM?
I think we need to get more women
Get the waiting room. Let's go. Bring more people.
Let's bring more fucking people in.
Let's make it a 50-person show.
That was the first moment of silence.
Well, we can only go up to 25.
Until we get one person, and then they have to talk.
Ideologies. Anybody?
Look, if you can't find one person to bring on, are you really a streamer? Have you really made friends in space? You can't find one person.
Let them come in here.
I
Let's
like
pull
the
up the random
people.
people in. Let's fucking go.
Mr. Brain Dead. Let's fucking go.
Please do not. Please do not.
Come here, you drunk,
I
sleepy motherfucker.
want to point out just briefly, I don't think that incels really know what women are. I don't think that incels are interested in spending time with women. That's why they isolate themselves into groups with only guys, but they're not really into guys. So I think that half of them should transition and get breast jobs, and then they can all start jerking each other off, and then it solves the entire problem.
Did you say that you were an incel, though?
These are the solutions I come here for. Excellent.
You said you were an incel, so what are you?
I think.
Hey, do you guys think tech companies have a responsibility to stop the spread of red pill?
No.
No, God, no, not at all.
Just debunk the red pill arguments. That's all you got to do. The red pill arguments are ridiculous.
It's just shitty dating advice.
Well,
If
it's
they
people
put it
being
in
radicalized in a way, isn't it? Isn't
It
it like
really
the
is
isn't
just
it like
it's
flat earthers
okay. I
kind
know
of?
you're a total loser, but act like an alpha Chad, and then you'll get laid.
Again, if you have to say you're an alpha, chances are you're not a fucking alpha. It's that simple.
Brother.
It depends on how many guns you have, right?
If tech companies should curb it, then they should also curb like fucking horoscopes and crystals.
Look, what'd you have?
No.
Reservoir, what'd you have?
Fuck yeah! No, look. I think anybody who says shit like, "Oh, Mercury's in ascendance" or something should be like literally just locked away. They can go.
Yeah, honestly, as somebody that says those things, right? I think that's super base, but only because I don't want to consent.
Well, to be fair, I'm imagining that's what your horoscope said this morning, right? Some angry Ed Sheeran lookalikes going to scream at you about your weird fucking astronomical.
No, it really what it said
That's
to me
who you
this
look
morning
like.
is that I have the shits and I've been shitting my brains out for days, and that's
You
really
might
it.
want to go to the doctor, man. Go to the doctor. Dude.
Yeah, no, it's just like I got a stomach virus and stuff. It was bad, right? And
What's
I
a
got that
woman
stomach
thinks
virus
of you
because
if
I
you
ate
admit that you go
hot
to the
dogs, which were
doctor, though?
true food of men everywhere.
Is that a talking pinata?
This
Well,
is
yeah,
the
they're
thing is-
already
the thing
fucking
is women-
mentally ill.
The thing is, women don't talk
mentally
about
ill.
their sexuality. Women don't express their sexual objectification of men. So men don't know how to objectify themselves for women because so women women know what men want. They know exactly, but like men are just like. Be a giga chat, and women don't talk about what makes them horny because their locus of power is their sexuality, that traditionally, and so to talk about what makes them horny forfeits that locus of power.
No,
Dude, women are just as bad as men. What are you talking about? Women are just as bad as men with their sexuality. Women are just as bad as men when it comes to sexuality.
You are living in another world, Alex. You
can't
live
deny
on
that
another
socially, that's
planet,
not
bro.
acceptable.
No, you
What? I
You
live
live on
world.
another
What the fuck are you
planet. If
talking
you
about?
think women are,
we
if you think, wait, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Tom, stop it already.
That is dumb. That is just blatantly dumb.
Alex just
It's
say
not
women are
blatant
bad.
wrong.
It's
Women are just
it's
bad
not
as men
blatantly
are.
wrong. It's blatantly
No.
retarded, is what it is. Okay.
Here's the thing.
Oh my
You-
god!
you-
Really? Why?
you
Because
have-
that's what
yeah.
you say so?
Tom,
So
Tom,
listen,
you would think that, Tom, you would think that if you never talk to women, which I thoroughly believe that you don't talk to women, right? And it's definitely true,
Well,
right?
what?
Women objectify men all the fucking time. All the time.
Okay, that's
And
not what we're talking about. That's not what
I
we're
will-
talking about. Stop
He's
going
right.
off topic on
That's
random
what we're
crap,
talking
please.
about.
Stop. You
What are you
guys
talking about?
really
We
have
were just
issues
about
engaging on the
objectifying-
topic that we're
We're
currently
just
on.
about objectifying women.
Okay, everyone.
That's not what we're talking about. So first off, I have.
Shut up, Tom. Shut.
Okay, Tom. Now you get to talk. Now I'm gonna give you the floor.
I have no issue having. I have many girlfriends all over the place. I have girlfriends all over the world currently. I could call any of them right. I'm just kidding.
right here.
But no, listen. The women do not like talk about porn. They don't objectify men in the same way. They don't talk about men. They don't catcall men. They are not open with their sexuality the same way that men are. There's no way you could possibly.
You're just
think
not
that
paying
that's
attention, Tom.
No, it's not that I'm not paying attention. You guys are
You
nuts.
aren't talking to Geminis, Tom. That's the problem.
These
I've been doing this
talking
for
to
so long.
idiots.
I've been trying.
This
I've been
guy's
trying
out
to
here
make
chasing
porn.
Sagittariuses.
Women consume pornography at the same or higher rates than men do. That's ridiculous.
I'm
There's
a straight man.
empirical data to show that.
I've been trying to make porn for
You're
straight
still
women.
not
I'm a
on the
straight
same
man
topic.
trying
I don't
to
know what the
objectify
issue
myself on the internet. I've been making porn, and I want to attract straight women. And people
I
are
will
telling me,
tell you
"Oh,
how."
you're never gonna get that unless you only way you're gonna get like an audience is if you go gay, it's LGBT, go trans or something, because straight women are never gonna fucking follow you or whatever because they just don't."
Anecdotally, I will say this. Anecdotally, before I started working out and weightlifting all the time, I used to be really skinny. All right. I competed in martial arts and I was really thin for martial arts. So before I started weightlifting heavy, before I started getting bigger, I would go on Tinder and I was a teacher at the time. I got objectified like a motherfucker. Everybody I swiped right on, every single girl was like, "Oh, I want you. I want to be in your class. I want to get extra credit. I want to do this for you. I want to do that
That's
for
not
you."
objectifying you.
Yes, it is,
Are you
dog.
sure none of them were your students? I'm a little fucking concerned.
No,
now.
that's not.
That's how
I
I
want to be in
is.
your class. Isn't
That means I
objectifying your body.
sex with you.
Oh no!
The only place that men are allowed to be sexual is on Tinder. The only place that men are allowed to.
No, it's not.
Guys,
Get outside more. Touch grass.
Totally.
Anecdotally, if you go and flirt with women at the gym, you're gonna get some shit about that, and more. The more and more, like we're saying, no, you can't do it in the car, you can't do it here. You can't do it.
Dude, it really depends on how you approach the women, though. It really depends. Yes, you can. It's all about how you approach.
I do
like, hey, you flirt with people when you're you probably don't want to be flirted with.
Okay.
Bug. Sorry, yeah, what's up? Hey, how's it going?
We're doing how do you feel about incels and red pillars? And the second thing, let's get more people in here. Let's make this the biggest show I ever did. Come on, let's Let's get more people in.
Right? Because then nobody's going to be able to hear what anyone's saying.
I'm the only real red pillar here. You all are still stuck in the fucking Matrix.
That's pretty true.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
The Matrix is cozy.
Wait, the impact. Well, okay, right. So red pillars are basically just a.
Oh god, it's a red coat.
Yeah. Red pillars are just like
that problem, motherfucker.
Focusing. Okay, all that's happening with the red pill community is that you've got this existing, I'm gonna say it, patriarchal structure, and then they focus it into getting things they want, like money or women. Right? They abuse the current structures that are in place so that they can manipulate women, or so that they can manipulate men into getting money from the men. That's
you don't
it.
have
That's
to.
how the
You
red
don't
pill.
have to.
Wait, are you saying that it's coming
when men go out?
we
No,
have
men. Hold on.
system that favors men
That
like
was
that
that was
already?
that was retarded statement. So
Everyone
here's
stop.
the thing: they're not abusing a system, right? All they're doing is taking advantage of the system in place. Wow, good.
That's
make money.
taking
Improve yourself.
advantage.
You don't have to manipulate women.
Red pills are beta.
You don't have to manipulate women. You do not have to manipulate women. You do not have to manipulate women. If you have status, if you have money, you don't have to take advantage or manipulate women. Women will fucking run after money and status on their own.
Wait, bro, why? Why will they? Why will women
Because
run
they're
off
greedy,
the
gold-digging people trying to distract you from their goals.
Well,
and
no,
they're
not
fucking
greedy.
she-devil whores.
Hold on. Even if that's true, why has society? Okay, cool. Even if that's true, why has society put them in that position? Why? Why did they
has
like that?
Society has not put them in
deal
that
with the
position.
whining bullshit when they push back. Right? Do you want another wave of feminism that's going to get progressively worse and worse?
Who made women like this? Who made women like this? Was it God?
No, it was feminism. It was them.
It was the Masons, actually.
It was feminism. It was feminism destroying. It was feminism.
It was the Masons.
It was feminism destroying traditional family values by telling women that they can go out and fuck whoever they want until they're 30, and then when they hit the wall, they expect some simp to take care of their past mistakes.
Women weren't gold diggers before feminism. That's your claim. Women were not gold diggers before feminism.
It was the Masons that did it.
Gold digger is a negative connotation for it. I think it's just the female sexual reproduction strategy to like seek and accrue resources
you don't know
to their mate.
This is K-type reproduction. Very important.
Hold on. Women were gold diggers
bro.
before feminism, but now women have more options. So now they can be gold
I don't
diggers,
even
or they can be
necessarily
other,
think
like,
it's gold digging. It's just being honest with like what the actual
feminism. I don't think
women want to secure resources for their offspring, and they swipe for partners that are able to provide resources for that offspring. Whether it's like the ability to actually like provide food and sustenance, or like to protect, or financial
safety and security.
It's
can't
safety
see
and
women as
Safety and
anything
security,
but like
yep.
fucking breeding machines. Can you?
Okay. So then,
what?
if we agree,
no,
right,
I'm saying that as like I'm talking about this as like humans as animals have this strategy. It's the same reason that men have a tendency to like go for more attractive women with features that are indicative that they're going to have children. Larger breasts, wider hips, all that sort of stuff is kind of hardwired into at least heterosexual guys' brains as like, oh, this woman will produce children, and I want more children.
This is great.
Because we all have a genetic desire to continue on our lineage.
Well, hold on. To connect this to what Smugbug is saying. Hold on. To connect this to what Smugbug is saying. The capital is used as a signifier.
Capital. We're talking about biology now.
Well, no, no, we're not, because we're talking about whether or not we seek out status, and capital is just a signifier of status.
Yeah, but he's
and
just going to say that's
technically
biology,
just
right?
another way of. Yes, we are saying that it's biological for us to look for. Hold on. We're saying that it's biological for people to look for safety and security, but you're connecting this to status, and I'm saying status is just another signifier of safety and security, and that's what he's saying as well.
Yeah. So let's just keep this super simple and not nuanced, okay? Women are seeking resources, whether that's status or money or whatever else. Everyone seems to, at least people on that side of the aisle, are saying that it's based on like a biological mismatch, and that, which again, yeah, this is where it's sourced.
Not a mismatch. It served us pretty well for last like 5,000
sexual
years.
dynamics, evolutionary dynamics, whatever you want to fucking call it. All right, be autistic if you need to, but just do it while muted. So then at that point, right? We have this established set of like behavioral pressures on women to seek out these resources based on like the evolutionary biology, whatever else, right? So then we do agree, because my original point was that the red pillars are just leveraging this biological reality to manipulate women. Now, we can disagree on whether that biological reality has become like a social reality. It has. But and whether it's necessary because it's biology, I obviously disagree that it's necessary. But that's what's happening, right? Like, red pillars are abusing those mechanics to try and get the most out of their relationships with women in order to get... Cool.
And
That's
women
why
are trying to
make
get most out of their relationships with men.
I don't think that's
They're
the
trying to get
current
that.
prevailing societal meme that's being pressed, at least in terms of like the wide scale thing.
So sorry, are you about to like go into this whole we currently live in a matriarchy because feminism won angle?
I didn't say that. I just don't think that's I don't think that the current like prevailing societal narrative is a wholly pro male one, which is why we have more and more MRA and red pill type people that are coming out as a direct reaction to this, you know.
I think Flowtrace made a good point. The
where a
patriarchy
lot of
patriarchy
people-
isn't pro man; it's just an existing structure, right? Like
I don't even know. I'm curious. Like in what like specific way is our current society patriarchal?
Well, I mean, I guess you can look at like economic outcomes. Like, for example, I don't know, men are only like 95% of CEOs. They're like 80% of like
But that's like
American Congress.
Is that statistic currently stagnant or static, or is it changing?
It's probably changing over time. I would imagine it's changing in a positive direction.
So,
but that doesn't mean the problem is fixed.
If it's changing in a different direction to accommodate women, is that inherent in a patriarchal system?
I think the system
you define what you mean when you say patriarchal.
Let me ask you this.
You want an answer to your question?
Flamenco,
Flamenco, you want an answer to your question?
Hold on. If I'm a 300-pound man and I drop down to 250 pounds at 5'5", am I still fat?
You're skinny, bro. But it's changing that direction. Therefore, it's at the
You're already fit, bro. You're done. You don't need to do any work.
You're working towards progress. You're working towards progress. If someone, if someone loved to be fat and hated to be skinny, right? But they're losing weight, then they're making progress towards being skinny. You can't really make that
if somebody posts like a before and after photo of you at 300 pounds and you at 250 pounds, someone's gonna be like, dude, you need to fucking lay off the snacks, fatty. They're gonna be like, oh wow, you're doing a good job. Keep up the good work.
No, not everyone's gonna feel that way. Not everyone's gonna feel that way. That's the thing.
I don't think this argument. I don't think
We're
this
gonna do that to women though.
Everybody doesn't think like that.
Flamenco.
My point is, you would not look at that person and say they're not fat.
Flamenco, you're right. Wait, hold on.
All of you are all you're getting thinner.
Flamenco, the deranged take you just gave is actually like it serves our point, which is that it doesn't make sense for you to start throwing grenades at the things that are causing that progress. Why would you like negatively go, oh, this is lay off the snacks.
Because the societal
why are you trying to
trends that are being pushed towards that are negatively affecting men.
Not everybody feels that way, though. That's the problem, Flamenco. Not everybody feels that way.
Hold on. Okay, hold on.
Well, I didn't say everyone feels that way, but I'm saying that a growing amount of people are feeling that way, and that's why you have people who
a growing amount. Actually, I'd say it's quite the opposite.
Rights things and
we're gonna do
opposite, Alex. We just understand you don't feel that way.
abolishing slavery.
Okay, yeah, nice fucking comeback, Spartacus. Holy shit, you take off and think that
You
shit
don't feel that way. You're trying to put yourself in the majority, in the ever-growing majority, and it's not ever-growing. As a matter of fact,
reality, you fucking jive turkey. What's wrong with you?
It's not ever-growing. As a matter of fact,
ever-growing.
because people live in fucking reality.
Yell at the mic. Is that what we're gonna do? Yeah, I'm gonna fucking yell at the mic because I can yell louder than you can. Yes, that's right. That's right. I can fucking do that. I can yell a lot louder than anybody in this fucking room. Okay. You want to fucking get there? Okay, let's fucking do it.
So now that we're coming back to Earth, right? Let's move. Let's move towards this, right? So you're not in the ever-growing majority. There's a lot more conversation happening about men's rights. Men's rights is having a lot more people say, yeah, men aren't being treated well. There's a lot more progress towards that side than there is your side. You're just factually
Feminism
incorrect.
includes men's rights. Feminism includes men's rights. What men's rights?
No, it does not.
Not the latest wave.
Kind of like
the pure idea of feminism. The pure idea of feminism does include males' rights, but not the latest wave.
Real quick,
original point that
Hold on.
The original point that Smugglers was trying to illustrate is that we live in a pro-male society, that the patriarchy does exist. Just because, no, this is the original point. Smugbug was originally making the claim that we live in a patriarchy, that we do live in a male society, and the seeming argument against that was, well, we're moving in the direction of more female CEOs to counter the idea that we have lots of male CEOs as evidence of the fact. That can be true. We can still live in a male society. Just because you're transitioning away from a thing does not mean you are not that thing.
It's prevailing societal means.
And this is a step further. It is absolutely not the prevailing societal idea. It is a prevailing societal idea, but the idea that it's a settled issue that we absolutely need more women CEOs and this is what everyone thinks. I'm sorry, that's just not
I didn't say
true.
it. I didn't say that. I didn't say that specifically. I'm saying that the prevailing societal narrative is that like we need more X and X to be in a 100%.
It is not the prevailing society. Some people in our society, even a significant number of people in our society, believe that, but that is not enough to disprove.
I would say it's the one that's
assertion.
By
here's the deal.
Establishment media and other entities.
Pushed by establishment media. It's more to our society than establishment media.
How the fuck is the pinata talking, but not an actual human is talking about human issues?
Because we don't fuck dogs
right now.
We're taking over, motherfucker. All right.
Right now, if you are this is amazing. I will agree in one sense with Flamenco. If you are like a prevalent figure, you can't just come out and say like I hate women. You know, like unless you're Andrew Tate,
I hate women.
But unless you do it with like dog, you know what I mean? Like,
That's the point.
But you have to be like underhanded about it. Like you have to come out and say things in a dog whistly way. I do agree that in a larger sense, like in broader society, that like
this motherfucker doesn't believe in dog whistles.
The narrative for society,
I believe in dog whistles. I just think that dog whistles are kind of cynically used to like essentially put words in people's mouths.
You guys not go off topic and let him
unironically,
finish,
people sort of say that there's no difference between Andrew Tate and
way off topic.
Because of
bullshit.
We're not going to get into a conversation on dog
women. Do you think
My point
has
was
said or implied that he hates women or dislikes women or think women are lesser?